Okay, so you've seen frequency tables before. So this time we have goals scored, 1 goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, 5 goals, 6 goals. Now, in 15 matches, there was only 1 goal scored. Okay, so technically that equates to 15 goals. Okay, in 14 matches, there were 2 goals scored. So technically, that is 28 goals. Okay. In 9 matches, there were 3 goals scored. So that is 9 by 3. So it's 27 because there were 9 goals scored in 27 matches. Okay, and so on. So when I'm reading my frequency table, I'm reading it like that. All right. So if I'm asked for the mean number of goals scored per match, okay, and this is where this gets really, really important, is calculating a mean based off of frequency table. So this is all what this video is about. Okay. So the mean is the sum of all numbers divided by the amount of numbers. Okay. Now, when I look at the sum of all numbers over the amount of numbers in this case, okay, the sum of all numbers, I have 1 goal scored, but it was scored in 15 matches. So do I go 1 and plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 and so on for 15? No, okay, so that's going to take an awful long time. But I know that I have 15 1 goals. Plus I know that I have 14 2 goals. I know that I have 9 matches in which 3 goals were scored. I have 6 matches in which 4 goals were scored. 5 matches in which 10 goals were scored. And 6 matches in which 6 goals were scored. Okay, so for a frequency table, you're multiplying the top by the bottom. Okay, so number of matches, there were 15 goals scored in this match. There was 15 matches in which 1 goal was scored. There's 14 matches in which 2 goals were scored. So that's a total of 28 goals across those 4 matches. In 9 matches, there were 3 goals scored. So that accounts for, it doesn't account for 18. That accounts for 27. In 6 matches, there were 4 goals scored. So if I add up all of the goals across those 6 matches, it'll be 24. In 10 matches, there were 5 goals scored. So if I add up all of the goals in each of those 10 matches, I'll get 50. And then in 6 matches, there were 6 goals. Okay? So when I add up all of them, 15 plus 28 plus 27 plus 24 plus 50 plus 36, that will get me the total number of goals that I'm talking about. Okay, which is 180. Okay, now if I go back down here, okay, by simply taking the 15 multiplying by 1 and adding to 14 times 2 plus 9 by 3 plus 6 by 4 plus 5 by 10 plus 6 by 6, remember brackets mean multiply. If I simply put this into my calculator, we'll also get 180. Okay, now the amount of numbers. Now, I don't have 6. That's a big mistake that people make here, is they put 6 because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts of my table. Okay, but I want to know how many matches there were in total. Okay, so the total number of matches is 15 plus 14 plus 9 plus 6 plus 10 plus 6. Okay, which in this case, and we're actually told in this case, that there are 60 matches. Okay, because I want the average number of goals across all 60 matches. Okay, so I divide 180 by 60 and I get a mean equal to 3. Okay, so this is really important. When I have a frequency table, to find the mean, I have to multiply the top line by the bottom line and add them all up that way. Okay, because that would get me the sum of the numbers. Okay, so every time that you have a frequency table, you must multiply the top by, to get the mean, we're multiplying top by the bottom, plus top by the bottom, plus top by the bottom, top by the bottom, plus top by bottom, plus top by bottom, plus top by bottom. Okay, so really important when we have the mean, that's what we're looking for. Okay, right. The next one was what was the modal number of goals. Now the mode is the most frequent, so I can look at that and I can say, oh, the most frequent here is what number of goals comes up the most. The modal number of goals scored was 15. Okay, because in 15 matches there was 1 goal scored. Okay, 14 came close, so 2 goals came close. Sorry, modal number of goals here, be careful with how you answer it, is 1. 1 comes up 15 times. Okay, be careful what the question asks. The question asks for the modal number of goals scored. In what percentage of the matches were 3 or 4 goals scored? So I'm looking at 3 or 4. So I'm looking at both of these sections. So there were 15 goals scored in either 3 or 4, because 9 and 6 is 15. To get the percentage, I'm always dividing by the total number of matches, so 60, and multiplying by 100. Okay, so in 15 matches, there was 3 or 4 goals. And dividing by the total, so 15 divided by 60 multiplied by 100 gets me 25%. Find the greatest number of matches which could have ended in a draw. Okay, well, if it ended in a draw, that means there had to be an even number of goals, because we would have had 1-1, 2-2, 3-3. Okay, so if I had 1-1, for example, that would be 2 goals. If I had 2-2, that would be 4 goals. If I had 3-3, that would be 6 goals. If I have 5 goals, one team has to score more than the other, because I would have had 1-4 or 2-3 or 5-0. Okay, so the greatest number of matches that could have ended in a draw is 14 for 1-1 for 2 goals. 6 matches scored 4 goals, and 6 matches scored 6 goals. So that will bring us to 26. Now remember, that's the greatest number. Okay. Now none of these might have been draw matches. That could have been, like, all of these could have been 2-0. All of these could have been 4-0 or 1-3. Okay, but be very careful what the question asks. It looks for the greatest number. Okay, the most important thing on this is the mean. When you're looking for the mean of a frequency table, okay, you've got to multiply the top by the bottom, plus the top by the bottom, plus the top by the bottom. Okay, and then always divided by the total number, so not the number of sections. Okay, so the total matches. Okay. Okay, in this slide we have a different type of frequency table. Okay, so this is called a grouped frequency table. Okay, and these are called intervals. Okay, so number of calls 0 to 4, that means there are 45 calls, okay, between 0 and 4. So it says 100 people were asked to record the number of mobile phone calls they received in a particular day. So 45 people received between 0 and 4. Now, all 45 of them could have received only 1 call. We could have had 20 of them receiving 1 call. 5 of them receiving no calls, 10 of them receiving 3 calls, and 10 of them receiving 4 calls. Okay, but they're grouped. Okay, so first question here is asking for the modal group. So remember, the modal is the most frequent. So the modal group, most frequent group, is 45 in this one. So 0 to 4 is the most frequent group. What is the greatest number of people who could have received more, who could have, remember we said about wording, really important, who could have received more than 18 calls. So more than 18 calls, okay, takes into account more than 18. So 18 lies in this group here, okay, but more than 18 accounts for both of these groups. Okay, now I know for definite that this one person received more than 18 calls because it received between 20 and 24. Now I have 8 in here. Okay, it is possible that all 8 of these people received less than 18 calls. But I'm looking for the greatest number of people. So I've got to take in a bit of probability here. I've got to think about the greatest possible outcome. It is possible that all 8 of these people had 18 and 19 calls, or all 8 of these people had 19 calls. Okay, so the greatest number of people is all of the people in the 15 to 19 section, because they all may have had 19 calls, and 1, so the greatest number of people is 9. Okay, the least number, if I was asked for the least number, would be just 1, because then in that case I would be assuming that all 8 of the people in this section were less than 18. Okay, so that's the thing about intervals here, is we don't know what the individual frequency, we don't know what all of these 29 people actually got, how many calls they actually received. We just know that there were 29 people who received between 5 and 9 phone calls. Okay, now we have what is the least number of people who could have received less than 8 calls. So less than 8 calls. I definitely know there are 45 people. So that's a definite. Okay, there are definitely 45 people that received less than 8 calls. Okay, now if I look at this section, okay, these 29 people could have received less than 8 calls, but they also could have received 9 calls. Now, the probability that all 29 of these people received 9 calls is slim, but I don't know. So the least number of people who could have, the least amount, is 45. I know for absolute definite that all 45 of those people received less than 8 calls, because they're in the 0 to 4 category. Now, this is really important, okay? Mid-interval values. Okay, so one of the most important things you're going to learn in statistics is these mid-interval values. Okay, so I'm going to write it down here. I'm still on my highlighter. So mid-interval values. Okay, big massive star beside what these mean. So literally mid-interval. Okay, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my intervals and I'm going to write the very middle. The easiest way to do that is to say 0 plus 4 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. 5 plus 9 is 14, divided by 2 is 7. 10 plus 14 is 24, divided by 2 is 12. 17 is my middle interval here, and 22. Okay, so I get my middle interval. Okay, now the mid-interval assumes, so this has got a little bit of assumption in this case, it assumes that all 45 people in the 0 to 4 category have 2 calls, okay? Or at least it assumes that the average of that is 2, okay? So maybe it doesn't assume that all of them, but it assumes that the average of all of the calls in the 0 to 4 category is 2 people, okay? So it's only an estimate. Okay, so you'll always see that an estimate, because if I knew what all of the individual values were, it would be much more beneficial, okay, because it would give me an exact result. Using mid-interval values only gives me an estimate, okay, but it gives me a good estimate, okay. And then I'm going exactly the same as I was before, but I'm going to ignore the intervals and I'm only going to look at the mid-intervals. So now in my table, what I have is I have 2 and 45. I have 7 and 29. I have 12 and 17. I have 17 and 8 and 22 and 1. So to get my mean, remember, we're assuming that all 45 of these people made 2 calls, so that's 90 people. All 29 of these people made 7 calls, so that would account for 203. If I count for all 29, if I add 29 up 7 times, I'll get 203. Or remember, I multiply them. So the same as the last time, we're multiplying top by bottom. So I've got 12 by 17, which is 204, 17 by 8, which is 136, 22 by 1, which is 22. Okay, and remember the mean is the sum, so I'm going to add all of these up. 90 plus 203 plus 204 plus 136 plus 22. I'm dividing that by the amount. Now the amount is the total frequency. Okay, so if I just put this here, total frequency. Now in this case I'm not given it, so I'm going to go to the frequency up here. Frequency. Okay, I know there are 45 people, then there are 29 people, then there are 17 people, then there are 8 people, and then there is 1. So when I add up all of those people, I will get 100. I actually, just see up here, I actually am told there are 100 people. But the total frequency I can always get from adding the bottom of the table. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to rub this out just so that, see, in this case, it is 100. Now I could also write my mean, instead of finding the sums, I could simply just say top by the bottom plus top by the bottom. Now it's one or the other, if not both, plus top by the bottom plus top by the bottom, plus 22 by 1 divided by 100. Okay? Now, either way, when I add all of these, or when I do that calculation, so we'll have 90 plus 203 plus 204 plus 136 plus 20 plus 203 plus 204 plus 136 plus 22 is, now I'll have to just go up here, is 655 divided by 100, which is 6.55 is the mean number of calls. Okay, so the mean number of calls actually lies in the second interval. Okay, is the mean number. So remember, it's not 5 that goes down here because there's 5 sections. It's the total frequency. Okay, so total frequency. Okay, and this is my estimate for my mean in this case. So it is 6.55, and the question actually asks to give it to the nearest whole number, so we can round it to 7. Okay, but I can't stress the importance of that mid-interval values. It's very, very, very important, okay, for calculating means when I have a grouped frequency table with intervals like that.